welcome to this short video podcast from the ProServe team based out here in the Middle East. Today, I'm joined here by Michael Perkis, who's our Global VP of Services for ProServe, by John Bright, who's our ADNOC Operations Director, and also by Zubair, who's our Business Development and Sales Manager here in the Middle East. My name's Angus Roger. I'm the General Manager of ProServe Al Badi based in Abu Dhabi, and I'll be hosting and chairing this short discussion today, where the team are going to cover a range of topics, but broadly based around the power of partnerships, and the value that we at ProServe see from developing real relationships and becoming true partners with all of our customers and major operators. So I thought it'd be interesting to start by asking quite a simple question of the three guys here with us today. If you look in the English Oxford Dictionary, the word service actually has around 20 definitions, official definitions in the dictionary. And I thought it would be quite interesting to get each of your takes on what you understand and what you believe the true meaning of the word service is. So, Mike, would you like to kick us off and give your thoughts on what service means to you and to ProServe?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's all about trust. It's about identifying the problem, then identifying the solution, being good at putting in the solution, and then building the trust, building the relationship with whoever you're working with to be asked to do that again and again for more and more problems, so that effectively you become symbiotic. And over time, I think that is service. Great.
And John, how about you?
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, service is basically looking after someone and looking after what they're good at. And if you look at a lot of the partners we work with, their job is to basically supply energy. Our job is to help them to maintain that supply and keep that going. And by having a good service, you then build that relationship, which then becomes a partnership. And that's what it's about.
Great. And Zubair, how about you?
I was just picking up on what John and Mike have said. For me, it's facilitating our partners. It goes above and beyond provision of spares, repair, and maintenance to providing them with enhancement solutions to our existing legacy installations. Just like everyone here knows, ProServe has a long history of over 60 years of legacy installation, ranging from Autocon, Baker CAC, Briscoe, eProduction. How do we ensure that we support our clients to keep those equipments running by providing them with the services and the support required to ensure they go on with their operations?
Excellent, great. Well, that's a great introduction. I think it's really interesting how everybody's high-level understanding of service is the same, but depending on what position you're in, and not just within our company, but I suppose within the industry as well, various people think of service slightly differently. So we're going to cover a number of topics today, but as I mentioned, broadly around the theory or the discussion of partnerships. And I thought it'd be interesting to start, John, with a bit of discussion from you around, obviously the market has seen a lot of change, development over the last 12 months, not least the impact of COVID and some of the restrictions we've seen due to the pandemic. But without wanting to go into too much detail on the actual COVID situation there, how have you seen the market really change and the operators within the region and in general change their tact and change their priority over the last kind of 12 to 24 months?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because people have been in the industry as long as I have, and I've been in the Middle East now for over 25, 26 years. And during that time, I've seen a number of downturns and obviously had conditions like we have now. And operators tend to change and adapt to the situation they're in. This year, of course, we've had a combination of various things, including COVID, which have had a complete knock-on effect. I was looking earlier, actually, if you look at the major projects around the world, there's 134 projects globally that have been put on hold. And of those, there's 20 projects, and this is purely upstream, 20 projects just in the Middle East. Now, looking at that, that's $100 billion worth of projects which are now on hold. But on top of that, it also means you're not getting that production coming through. So what people are looking at now is how can we maintain that production and replace that production with what we have already? So our speciality is going in there, making sure that they can maintain what they've got and also increase by adding on old assets, which basically, to be honest with you, 80% of the assets in the field of control panels are ProServe's legacy brands anyway, which I'm sure Zubair will speak about later. Yeah. But once we look at that and we look at the old fields and how we're managing to compensate for the lack of the new fields coming on, and also allow our partners to carry on with the shutdowns they're doing and losing production there, but being compensated with the upside of the brownfields, which we're helping with. And of course, because of what's happened, it's driving the new phase of digitalization and everything through, and new ways of doing things. And one of the things I'm sure you can tell us about is what we're doing with ProServe Abu Dhabi to compensate with that, with this basically people not being able to gather together and not being able to go offshore in certain cases.
Yeah, I think it's certainly created some challenges for everybody. But us here in Abu Dhabi, we were in a unique situation, I suppose, that we just moved into a new facility in Musafa back in January, a great new dedicated ProServe facility, a very kind of adaptable and flexible space. And I think that's really been a lifeline for us. It's enabled us to react and change our approach, be flexible with the number of people that we physically have on the ground working in the facility. As you'll know, we've put in, and we're using digital tools now, the likes of temperature thermometer scanning devices for when any contractors or visitors or employees visit site. Naturally, we're doing virtual FATs now, and we've run a couple of really successful FATs with ADNOC and other operators from not just our Abu Dhabi facility, but also our facility in Dubai. So we've, on some occasion, have had physical customer witnessing, but more and more frequently now, we're seeing 100% of that witnessing happening through virtual or digital means. So very similar to this, when we have individuals from the operations team offshore, HSC and some of the quality teams in the offices onshore, all joining in and all being able to go through the FATs. And it's actually it's been quite interesting because it's allowed us to record all of that as well and provide that huge amount of additional data and information to our partners.
And I believe you've been doing that for ADNOC Offshore anyway at the moment.
That's correct. Yeah, just in the last week actually of recording this video, we've done 2 or 3 successful FATs with some of the Lower Zakum team, and coming up between now and the next 3 months, we've got a good number of additional FATs going to be going through the workshop. We'll all be going through and carried out over this through these digital means. Okay, so moving on slightly, but I suppose developing or building on what we've just talked there with John about operators really shifting from CapEx to OpEx and developing some of the brownfield installed equipment that they've already got. Zubair, I'd be interested, could you tell us a little bit about how we're going about supporting our partners? We've obviously got a lot of installed equipment out there. From our past history, how is it that we're going about, addressing those installed assets and supporting our partners?
Thank you so much, Angus. Just like John mentioned, over 80% of the control system out in the Middle East, for instance, is ProServe. And when I say ProServe, it's a combination of all our legacy brands. Now, legacy brands include Briscoe. It includes Baker CAC, It includes e-production and AutoCAD. And for us right now, our main focus is how do we capitalize on our existing legacy installation. And by capitalizing, I mean most of our customers and NECs and oilfield service companies are moving away from capital expenditures to ensuring they get the best out of the existing assets. So we, with our history, our legacy, we're providing them with a whole gamut of service solutions, including, for instance, we provide them with the survey solutions to say we'll do an asset integrity check on your existing equipment, provide you with a report and a repair and maintenance proposal that would ensure you would enhance or upgrade those existing products. Alternatively, we would also provide our customers with the solution to ensure that we not only provide them with a survey and repair and maintenance, we ensure to maintain and continuously over the life of the field of the equipment, that the asset, the equipment continues to operate at maximum operational efficiency, and which is the way we've been looking at it. So our focus right now and the shift in the market and how that has informed the way we approach our customer is we've built in flexibility in the way we support them in ensuring that we say, these are our legacy products. By the way, because of our history as a legacy, as a controls technology with a history with over 60 years, we're ensuring that we can support a whole range of other OEMs. Basically, we're OEM agnostic. We can support as long as the controls technology surface, we would ensure we provide you with the services and the support you need.
Great. And you mentioned there, about supporting our install base or supporting the products that historically we've supplied to our customers, not just supplying and stepping away, but supplying them and remaining close through the life of that, through the life of that asset and through the life of that field. Mike, is that something that naturally we're seeing, at least as Zubair and John have been talking about previously, but is that something we're seeing globally and as a shift in what our customers and our partners are really looking for globally? Yeah, correct.
And not only, I think you get a lot of kudos and there's a lot of brand recognition. So yes, we're supporting our own installed base, but then through proving our service excellence, through proving our quality of work, through proving that we are a very capable outfit, we're also being asked to look after other OEMs equipment in the install base, which is something we're completely agnostic, and it's something we do. And to touch on your point, Angus, more and more in each of you're being asked to look at building more of a partnership, and rather than a give and take and supply and demand, go and do this when it's broken, we're much more looking at a holistic relationship where we're being given assets, be that a platform, a field, a site, a tower, and being told, can you please look after this for us? Can you make sure the downtime is reduced? Can you make sure we have our spares? Obviously with COVID, remote support is more of a challenge, but it is something that we are working through. We have guys in each of the countries we're located. We've got remote resources flying into other countries. It's something we can do. It's just part of an operational challenge that this new world has brought on and that we're tackling head on and doing the best we can with.
It's a new reality now, hey?
Yes.
And so developing on from that, or I wonder, John, could you give some context around how we actually go about establishing those types of partnerships? We've talked about moving away from just supplying a product and detaching the service support from that to a far more holistic view, as Mike just mentioned there. Could you give us an understanding of the process and the experience that ProServe have had over the last couple of decades of really developing partnerships with some of the major operators?
Yeah, Mike summed it up very well there with one word which sums up everything, and that's partnerships. we have our manufacturing facility in Jebel Ali, who still manufacture a lot of the old legacy brands. And recently I was discussing with the guys at ADNOC Offshore, and they were explaining they still have a Baker control unit from 1967 still operating. And obviously that's on our list of many to maintain. The difference that's puts ProServe in a different league to others is the fact that, yes, you can go to an EPC contractor and you can say to them, we want you to handle this. And they will do the engineering, they'll do the procurement, they'll go out, they hire everything in, complete the job, and then they walk away. With ProServe, we don't walk away. We actually go in, we look at what the issues are, we sit with the client, we come up with a solution. We then bond that partnership so that we then move together, not only through doing the engineering and the design work to actually replace or install new, but also to go along through the planning stage, the procurement, and also make sure that we hit the targets for production, because it's all about looking ahead and saying, okay, we have to meet production at the end of this year for a certain amount. Now, we all have shareholders, so do our partners. And at the end of the day, we have to work with them in partnership to meet those targets, which are very, very important. And I'll give you one example where it's very important what we do compared to the norm. And that is, there was one tower which was a major producer where it was getting to a point, a decision had to be made whether to scrap it and rebuild new, or to actually call ProServe in to overhaul the tower. They looked at the project side, and it would take 5 to 7 years to actually turn that around with a major, major loss of production. In the end, we sat down, came with a design, we looked at the plan, we worked through the planning stage, and in 18 months, we managed to overhaul and replace all the control units were there, all the flow lines that were required. And whereas there was an initial plan going with us of losing production for 2 weeks, they ended up with a loss of production for just 30 minutes. So if you take that into account, they saved money because of the amount of years that they would have to plan to do this. They also saved time, because instead of 5 years, they got it down to 18 months. But most importantly, they gained production. And that's what we have to look at, is we are a partner that look at their KPIs as well as our own. And this is going to be the future for others.
Yeah, I totally agree, John. It's really looking at what's valuable to the operators and to our partners, and sitting down right at the front end, like you say, before you're too far, along the line of some of the major project planning, as you mentioned, being involved in early survey processes, and really understanding what is actually installed there and the true condition of it, in understanding what you've got installed and operating or not operating, and then making a plan together, that we can then act on. And Mike, I'm interested that the kind of shift that we have certainly seen, and I wouldn't say it's just been over the last year or so, it's been coming and developing over sort of the last 5 years, from being a traditional kind of supplier and a service provider, to really moving into the true partnership model with some major operators. Has that been a shift that's happened by necessity, or has it been something that's come from true strategic direction and a conscious decision to move that way?
That's a really good question. As far as we, ProServe, are concerned, it's always been a necessity. However, I think the benefits you get from, and we keep using this word partnership, but it really is, that's what we want to work towards. The benefits of a partnership compared to a traditional end user supplier, somewhat distance relationship, are night and day. Having the inherent trust, having the trust to be able to share information openly, to communicate openly, to plan together, having us involved at the early stage, it like John said, there's not only saving, but there's then the production saving, which in all reality is a fiscal saving. It's just, there's no comparison to it. So as far as we're concerned, it's always been a necessity. But to answer your question, I don't think the market, at $100 oil, the market wasn't really too fussed if you just scrapped an old unit and built a new one. There was a lot of fat there. It was fine. You could do that, no problem. I think the market's now ready for it. It's always been a strategic goal for ProServe Service Group. It's now we're getting traction in it that I think it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy, because the more we interact with end users and with NECs, the more they see the benefit. They then tell their partners, who are then spread globally. And the more we do it, the more we're seeing the benefits mutually. So I think for us, necessity, for the market, now becoming necessity.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think, John, you could probably give us some insight. We talked about the the model of a partnership with some of that early planning, etc. But you could probably give us some direct insight into ProServe's relationship with ADNOC specifically in the Middle East, and maybe a bit about how that really came about, how it started, and how it's evolved to where it is today.
Yeah, I think over the years, as I mentioned at the beginning of the talk, having been here over 25, 26 years, things do take time to change. Doesn't matter whether it's the Middle East, Europe, America, operators and clients as they were very much, this is the way we've always done it, and this is the way we'll always do it.
Yeah.
Times have changed. I don't think, we know that clients now are looking at more partnerships and for people like ProServe to be those partners and move forward. Initially on working with ADNOC to look at, instead of supplying new panels through an EPC contractor and going for the lowest price with basically no support, no service, no long-term goal. It was crazy why it was being done. But fortunately, we have to say that ADNOC offshore have had the foresight and the strength to actually make that decision and go with it, and have seen the success of that, because what they've now got is a partner who's taking care of what they have, and it's coincided with one of the biggest effects on the global market for generations, and help them to get through it. It is very much, as Mike says, about a partnership is about trust, but it's also about the people. And yeah. I'm proud to say that ProServe not only have excellent management, but also have excellent people onshore and have amazing guys with so much experience offshore. And that is the important thing. If you have those combinations where they're working together, basically for the goal with your partner, you can achieve anything. Together, we can make sure that the partners we work with not only reach their goals, but exceed them. And on top of that, look at what we can do next in the future. And that's the important thing. And that's why now with ADNOC, we're looking at growing what we do, not only from a simple controls package, but also to a full turnkey package, which we are doing at present, where we can basically support them and plan over the next coming 3 to 5 years of the wells that they need to bring on stream.
I think you touched on something really, really strong and powerful there, John, in terms of the value of the people, and I think we have a fantastic mix here at ProServe of kind of the embedded experience that some of our engineers and our offshore service technicians have, combined with some of the entrepreneurial spirit and creativity, that is so encouraged in ProServe. It allows those individuals to have the honest conversations and the realistic conversations with the operations team offshore and relay that back and have a round table, as we frequently do. You know, we sit in bi-weekly planning meetings with ADNOC, now looking at their installed base, prioritizing together, you know, what is the most practical route to upgrading and improving some of the control systems they have. And it's only with the, you know, the true skill and value that some of the service technicians and engineers and other supporting functions that we have here that we're able to do that. So I completely agree, John. I think it's been a fantastic journey over the last 5-10 years with ADNOC to get to where we are today, to really be able to show them that value.
And I just wanted to add that you know, we've worked hard to actually, by expanding what we offer, to go from a simple supplier and service company to what is referred to as a minor EPC, but is basically a service EPC. And what that means is that we're taking care of the life of their asset. And to actually have that niche that a partner can call on and support them. And as you say, with regards to our guys offshore, they sit in regular meetings discussing and being asked advice on what should be done to resolve some of the issues they have. Yeah. So it's great to be part of that group going forward, where we can work together and continue to grow, and also continue to work and grow with our partners.
And that's really interesting to hear, you know, John, when we're dealing with national energy companies and big operators. But Zubair, I'm interested, you deal and interact a lot with the oil field service market, you know, some of our partners and customers in that space. How do you see this relationship, you know, working and being different perhaps to how it was maybe 5-10 years ago?
I think I'm going to make an extension or like a link between what our market credibility as a controls company with NES companies has really translated to we being seen by OFS companies, oilfield service companies, as reliable partners for them. I'll give you an example. Just last week, a prominent NES company, Bunduk, which has a field out here, and they've had our equipment for the past 38 years, gave us a glowing recommendation to say, in their own words, our equipment, which is Autocom ProServe, has been on their field for the past 38 years. The field guys like it because it's durable, it works fine, and the quality is excellent. And the repair aspect of it is very, very limited, which means simply, when we go to our OFS customers, they know us because the industry is a very, very small one. People talk, they see credibility, they want to work with credible people. But the question is, how are we able to translate that market credibility to our oilfield service customers? We have companies or partners that have well testing requirements that we can provide them with pressure testing support. We have companies that require us to support them with flushing requirements because we have the equipment in-house. We have partners that are into coiled tubing, cementing, and fishing that requires our ancillary support to enable them. The way I see us is we are operational enabler for them so they can focus on the core part of their work. And how have we been able to do that? One, we try to be nimble and flexible with our customers because the oilfield service market requires you to respond yesterday. It's not something you have to plan for. You need to be ready for it. And how do we do that? We engage them proactively to understand what your operational requirements will be, not today, in 3 months, 1 year. By having those understanding of those requirements, we can then plan parts to put in stock for them, because if they need it today, that means they need it yesterday. And also ensuring that we provide them with solutions. Some of our customers don't want to buy their equipment, their pressure testing equipment, their ESD off. They want to rent it. What have we done? We keep stock of rental equipment to say, customers, OFS service partners, do you need us to mobilize yesterday? We have it on the shelf to mobilize it for you. The way I look at it is providing them with rental solutions, providing them with parts to support them, and also ensuring that over the life of their project, which John continues to happen, and we need to continue to mention that and emphasize this, is because we're not just going to support you and wash our hands of it. We will support you and stay with you over the life of your operations, over the life of that equipment, and over the life of that project. And we ensure that some of the products we make and some of our customers requires pump support that is not part of what we as ProServe manufacture. But because of our credibility in the market, because of the understanding we have of the different key components of the control system, we partner with key, reliable vendors and OEMs and represent them. For instance, we support Milton with their pump repairs and maintenance in Abu Dhabi. We support Tescom, we're the representative partner for Tescom in Abu Dhabi. And also we're having conversation with a key slurry application pump called Discflow to bring that pump into the Abu Dhabi market. Our OFS partners requires a supplier or a vendor that is nimble, that is flexible, and that must be on time. And that is what we give them. And that gives them the ability to focus on the core part of the operations, which is what ProServe is all about.
I think you've covered some of those points greatly there, Zubair. With one thing I picked up on, and I would completely agree with from where I see things, is the flexibility and being nimble and really understanding our OFS partners or our operating partners' priorities and KPIs. We've evolved here specifically in Abu Dhabi, but also around the world as ProServe. We've evolved in line with those operators and OFS partners' kind of priorities and KPIs as they've evolved. You know, we've introduced rental models where previously we wouldn't, and we're able to because we can be incredibly flexible and nimble with that. So like you said, with some of the rental or the flushing equipment, pressure testing equipment, that goes kind of hand in hand and is a similar thing to some of the controls technology that we include now and introduce into our service that we provide some of the major operators and how we go, approach looking at that. And one of the things, Mike, that Zubair touched on there, or I think spoke about very well, was around the life of field, and actually not just providing and walking away, but really being that partner for the life of field. How do you how would you say that we support operators over the life of the field who are potentially wanting to extend the life of the asset that they've got? So I think we're seeing a lot of old assets now really coming to that. They're coming to a T-junction, and it's a decision that operators are needing to make as to, do we continue to try and get resources from this field or from this asset, or do we decommission? So how are you seeing that, not just in the Middle East, but I think is a global kind of theme? How are we approaching that?
I mean, I think probably predominantly it isn't in the Middle East, but what we are seeing, especially in the UK North Sea, is you have aging fields, and where you used to have, one of the majors or a national operator that ran this, you now have a much smaller, leaner operator who has, rather than a field with 300 assets, there's maybe 30 or maybe even 3. And I think Zubair made a really good point. Flexibility is key there. So we can scale up and we can operate just as well for a national operator in a full-on new build, all singing, all dancing field. But we can also scale down and look at, okay, you're only operating 3 assets and they've maybe only got 5 to 10 years left. So as an operator, you're not going to want to upgrade it, keep everything, it's not going to be all new build kit. It's not going to be new assets you're putting in. It's going to be keeping the existing assets running. So that's where we have the experience as ProServe, but Zubair also made a really good point. We're also very open and amenable to partnering with reputable companies, and like Zubair said, we have several agreements in place already. But that's where, and it comes back to something John said, we want to take away our partner. We want to take away their problems, and if we don't have a solution, we're really open to look into market to find a solution and then bringing that solution to them, rather than them having to have a disparate maintenance agreement with 17 suppliers. We're happy to take that on, and we can head it up, and we can represent the companies, and we can, as a one-stop shop. And it comes back to what John said, that's a service EPC approach. Yep. But that's flexible, that scales up and down to meet the needs of any operator.
And how are you, obviously a lot of what we've talked about there are relatively physical kind of processes, and physically having engineers interacting with people within the partners. How are ProServe approaching the inevitable future, or the reality of today, and the increase in the use of technology and digital applications to support that and support operators' assets for their entire life?
So we've taken a two-pronged approach. The first one's innovation through projects. So for instance, out here in the Middle East, we had a very specific need and want from an onshore operator who had a lot of old remote wells that were not connected to any form of feedback, be that SCADA or any remote monitoring. So, we innovated through the project to develop a solution called SmartBox that you can install onto existing wells. It's non-intrusive, and it's very simple, but it's fit for purpose technology that then makes that a live feedback field. So you've gone from having a very manual process, which used to be, to all intents and purposes, 2 men in a van. Through that innovation, you've now brought that field into the 21st century, where you can have that information fed back to your control room, and you do on-demand maintenance rather than just the old time-consuming, driving around the field. So that's one arm of, we're always amenable to that. The second thing we've done is we have launched a digital strategy, which I think is covered in another webinar that we're going to launch as part of this. But touching on it very briefly, we've committed to a digital strategy which has a digital leader, who's Stuart Harvey, who's leading that for us. And what we do through that is, I think Zubair said it very well, people need things yesterday, but to provide things yesterday, you have to look to tomorrow. And that strategy is all about, well, what will we need to do tomorrow? What can we do today to make ourselves better? And I know Stuart and Dua are doing a chat on that, so they could talk about that far better than I ever could.
Yeah. So that webinar that they're doing, and that is available to anyone watching this today, it's called Digitalization, Disruption, and the Human Interface. I think it's going to be a really interesting insight to how ProServe are taking a slightly different approach to digitization and looking at the reality of it, and really targeting and listening to the real world problems that operators are having, that we can solve for them using tomorrow's technology, how we can solve some of those problems of today and of the future. Everybody, thank you everyone for listening, for watching at home. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Zubair, and thank you, John. I think I'd really just like to close and wrap up by saying that ProServe really are focusing in on partnerships, wanting to get close to our traditional customers, those people who have assets installed by ProServe or provided by ProServe historically, whether it's in the Middle East or around the world. We're here to support with any of your controls related assets or controls related issues you have. As Mike said, we're here to help you solve the problems that you have. We're not just here to sell you a product. We really want to sit next to you and understand how we can work with you to make your lives easier and help you ultimately achieve your goals. So thanks once again, everybody. And all of us will be available for contact through ProServe's website. And we look forward to speaking to you and hopefully helping to solve your problems in the future. Thank you very much.